Let's do this. Where are you, Sia Sangweni? Let me see where he is. There he is.
Ah,
All right,
look
very
at
nice.
us.
Yeah, look at us. We're live this morning, and it's all happening on the YouTube. It's happening on cliffcentral.com. It is happening however you prefer to get it. Podcast a bit later on in the day, if that's what you prefer. You know, we try to make it as easy for you as possible. It is Monday. I was bitching to see how early it feels because it's so dark so early now. I woke up for some reason at like 5 a.m. this morning. I was stumbling around and it was like pitch dark outside, like midnight dark. And I was feeling very sorry for myself. So Leanne will join us in a minute or two. We've got a busy day ahead. We've got lots to do, people to see, places to go. Also going to check in with a guy who, if you have been listening to our waterfall podcasts, which are really amazing, about the waterfall is like, it's this city within a city in like Midrand. If you've ever
Yeah.
been to the Mall of Africa, that's where it is. But there are about, 7 residential estates in there? It could be even more. And Willie Voss is the guy who runs the whole place. And really, in terms of anybody who's studied urban planning or, the way they structure cities, the way they build developments, and this guy can tell us all a few interesting things about how it all works. And we haven't actually had Billy on our show before, but if you've listened to the Waterfall series, whether you're a resident of Waterfall Estate or not, it's really interesting stuff. So we'll check in with him a little bit later on and find out how everybody's weekend was. We'll start with Sia. What did you get up to?
Geez, I had a busy weekend. I went to the Midlands for my sister's birthday dinner situation.
Did you fly down?
Yeah, flew down back and forth, and it felt like we squeezed a lot into the weekend, but it was also very quick. And now, when I came back yesterday, I thought, whoa, what just happened? There was so much that happened there. But my sister's very pedantic about certain things, and including how safe everyone must be. Are they now? And what are we doing? It was no more than 10 people who were all invited for the dinner. And I mean, she made sure that we were all sitting outside because, we should all just be socially distant, and at least if there's air around, it will be fine. But come 11 p.m. or midnight, when you're still sitting outside, you're there going, is this all necessary now?
Yeah.
Listen, I found myself asking for like a shawl or a blanket, like an old lady. It's like, okay,
no,
let's hurry this up along.
Exactly the same thing happened to me. This is where, like, you suddenly realize, okay, like things don't sit still. And I know how this used to irritate Ben when we used to talk about him. Oh, hey, Leigh-Mol. What's happening?
Hola.
We're just talking about
how... We're using some new technology this morning, and I was very, very confused,
No, you're allowed to be confused. Look at you. There you are on the screen in all of your glory, resplendent in glory this morning as Leigh-Mol. We were just talking about how you can't sit outside at night much anymore because it starts getting chilly, and then Sia feels like an old lady because he has to ask for a shawl.
Yeah. I mean, it's read the room, but yeah, I had to ask for that. But it was so eventful in different ways, including I had a funny encounter flying back yesterday.
Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion that nothing brings people together, particularly South Africans together, like food, sport, and then a good fight.
Oh, was there a fight?
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, that's exciting. All right, tell me about the fight. Skip the rest. I want to hear about this fight.
It was a great sequence of events because there were these two men whom, as we were standing in line to board the plane, were having a conversation, and it was weird how I just took notice of them before anything happened. But one had like this big Sami Dagwood situation, and then the other was commenting on it, and oh yeah, food, and so great. And then on one of the screens at the airport, there was some match being a replay of something or highlights being played, and then they started talking about that. So you think, oh, these two are getting along so well,
right?
But then we get onto the actual plane, and the plane is taxiing on the runway and getting ready to take off.
Yeah.
And the one guy doesn't want to put his mask back on at the point. So this is the same one who was eating.
Just describe what these two guys looked like, because I always like to have a picture in my. Are we talking big khaki shirt wearing white dudes? Are we talking like gym freaks? Are we talking about like BEE types? Give me a description.
The one was very frumpy, and not to go into being Deputy Dr. Phil at 6:07 on a Monday morning, but you can tell that because he's so frumpy and rather large, he always feels like he needs to overcompensate for that. So he always has to be the seemingly loudest in the room, to be the confident one in the room. But it's like you can tell that he's overcompensating for some self-esteem things. And now the other one was just very stock standard, very like just straight up bloke. But it was the frumpy one who then didn't want to put a mask on as we're taxiing. And it starts off with the cabin crew going over to him like, "Sir, would you mind?" It goes, No. You can't tell me what to do. I need to breathe. And I thought, wait a minute, this is like yes, and I thought this is every single typical video I've seen about people having meltdowns during lockdown. He says, "I need to breathe. I need to breathe."
You know,
and then the cabin crew didn't know what to do. So then they had to get the pilot involved. And once the pilot is involved, that's like the parent of the flight. Yeah. So then they stop the flight completely. Now people are getting so annoyed, including Mr. Straight Up Bloke, who then intervenes and it becomes a fist fight. I thought, oh, this is great.
Right. What?
They actually got into proper, like, there was some fisticuffs going on. Did people actually hit each other in the head?
They were going at it. And then I thought, oh, I should be recording all of this. But I was the only one. And everyone was just trying to like stay away. And people were trying to like move rows ahead to avoid a punch in the head.
In other words, they were being South African and like avoiding confrontation.
Yeah. And I don't care what language you speak, where you're from. When you see a fight, you know what to do. It's just like, how, okay.
You hate fights, so was this making you very uncomfortable?
There was entertainment value there, so.
Yeah, you surprise me sometimes, honestly.
No, I don't like when I'm too involved in a fight, or when the lines are a little too blurred and people are serious. I think the dude had a drink in the afternoon and now it was playing out at this moment, and it was silly. It really was silly, because to think about it, we were about 20 minutes delayed. And then once we landed, first the cops had to be called. So clearly someone was going to be arrested. Was it really worth it? No. For just wearing a mask or not. Come on.
We tend to forget that most people traveling by airplane and going through airports are drunk. We tend to forget this.
Are they though? Honestly, I've never been drunk on a plane unless it was still hungover or like semi-drunk from the night before. But I have never been.
No, but you see, you're used to travel and all of that. It's part of your DNA. But for some people, it's a whole experience, going to the airport, going to duty free, sitting on a plane, ordering drinks, the whole before you board experience.
Oh, so they get excited and they want to have a drink.
Yes,
makes it feel like an event. Okay, yeah.
And then you think about it, people need to be there like 40 minutes, an hour before. What do you do with all of that time?
So I was talking to someone last week who seems to know stuff, one of those people who just seems to understand like when things are going to happen. And he reckons we're going to have another lockdown at some point. So
Oh, great.
I've already been planning to go down to the coast on like the Easter weekend or whatever, which I know is probably a terrible idea because a lot of people will be. So it's going to be crazy and chaotic. And I haven't been in a plane for, what is it now, a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm starting to think that it's a bad idea to choose to go away that weekend. I'm starting to think it might be better to just stay at home.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm especially with all of this sort of shit. And people, like, I don't mind wearing the mask, but this is going to be an hour flight, so it's not going to be the end of the world. I'll manage. And to think about being behind that mask for a whole hour, you can manage that. But these people who cause these scenes and these fights, I hate that. That's just
sure. I don't know what to do in your position. I think if it's something that you've planned for so long, just do it, man.
You think so?
The travel is insignificant. I mean, now it seems a lot if we drive for an hour. Can you imagine just 2 hours of travel stuff and then being where you want to be? Just do it.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'm just going to book it anyway. I was going to book it this week, so I'll do it today.
Yeah.
So it is Monday. We've got lots to get to. We'll do the headlines in just a moment or two.
How were your weekends?
I had a good weekend. I saw some friends over the weekend, and I went for a very nice lunch yesterday. Spent a bit of time with the family. So all in all, it was good. It ticked the boxes. I enjoyed it. I had a happy time. But I do want to say, like, I'm amazed by, and by the way, we've got a whole new format this morning, which you may or may not have noticed if you're watching us on YouTube today. We've got people commenting, which I'll put up occasional comments so you can see people's comments on the show. You can see Leigh-Mol sitting there all on her own, looking very studious with her glasses on. And remind you that she's Leigh-Mol and that kind of thing. It's handy to know this stuff.
It's all this new technology,
Isn't it great? It's lots of fun.
But it's also, it's weird because,
we can
usually
show videos and stuff for you.
that's
see.
nice.
Yeah,
usually on the platforms that we're used to, it mirrors what you're doing. But now it does the opposite to what you're doing. Have you noticed? So usually it's a mirror. So if you move left, your picture is going to move. The person on the screen is going to move left.
Oh, so
look at that. Now it's reality. So it's very different,
Yeah.
Well, it's all very exciting. There's breaking news that we can put up on the screen, so you'll be able to there. It's all breaking news this morning. Sia has moisturized.
I have to bring some context to how that happened because I was a little embarrassed. We were testing this out. When was it? A few days ago, Thursday or something. And it was Gareth and myself and Greg who we work with at Cliff Central. And I thought, I looked at myself as so many of us do now that we're on video calls and whatnot. And I thought, oh, okay, no, things are not looking as good. So I tried to secretly moisturize, thinking,
no.
I'm going to do it in secret. So I thought, does this look like I'm leaning against my face?
Like he's patting his face.
Lord.
Does this look like I'm just wiping some sweat off my forehead? I wasn't cool in putting it off. No.
Listen. There's there's a whole lot of stuff we've got to address this week. I don't know if you heard the news after our show on Friday, but King Goodwill's Zweletini died, and it was quite a big story. I didn't know that he was in ill health. It's amazing that Mangosuthu Buthelezi is the one who announced the king's death, and Mangosuthu Buthelezi is like almost 100 years old now. So I want to know, and Sia seems to know something about this, what the protocol is for the king dying and what happens and what swings into action. Because, we often talk about like the English royal family, the British royal family. We talk about what happens when that queen dies or when Prince Philip dies or whatever. So I'm curious about that. I put up a rest in peace, a condolences message to the king and his family and the Zulu nation. I've met King Goodwill Zweletini once, and I always found him to be a very charming and lovely man. Anyway, I put up rest in peace. Jesus, did I get like people are so unnecessarily stupid.
Oh no! Did you get flack?
For some reason, like if people decided that they hate you, then they don't believe anything you say. You could just wish someone's family well after they've died, and they're like, "Oh, that son of a bitch! Look at him climbing on board." I was like, it's a rest in peace message. I haven't tweeted for months, and I decide to put that up, and then it's a problem to some people, really.
Well,
what
one of the reasons I saw some backlash with your tweet, which I also learned on Friday, was that you are not meant to say the king has died when it comes to the Zulu nation or the Zulu king. I don't know how it works with other tribes in South Africa, but you are meant to use a phrase that says, or that rather explains that the king has bowed down or bowed out, because technically the people bow down to the king. And so the king will only ever bow once in his life, which is when he bows out of this life. I also didn't know that. It was fascinating for me to find out. So there are all of these rules and protocol and procedures.
I was wondering about that with you, Sia, and I'm glad that you're the one to address the passing of the bowing out of the king. But do you feel anything towards the whole thing being culturally Zulu?
No. And yeah, I get the importance of knowing where you come from and who you are. But if we're being technical, yes, I grew up in KZN, but it's only actually my maternal grandfather who's Zulu in my family. So I also think if the Zulu tribe was like some other Southern African tribes where there were rites of passages and ways to mark who you are and what you do, maybe I'd feel more connected. But as a Zulu man, there really isn't anything that you do. Zulu maidens can do like a reed dance and they can have certain ceremonies. I don't.
They can't go to the funeral though.
No.
Yeah, Zulu maidens can't go. So
no females.
So this is interesting because when I said, so in my culture, which is obviously kind of Western European, when a king dies, you say the king is dead, long live the king, because what you're actually saying is that the monarchy survives everything. So it's there for perpetuity. So what you're really saying is that even though this person has passed on, their son or their heir takes over. So there's a continuation. And I mean, that's something that has been said for hundreds of years. So I think if people didn't understand it, it's because they expect that you must know everything about their culture, but they know nothing about yours. So it's kind of this double standard, which I've always found very bizarre. I think, that's why I'm happy to learn things, but this is not some reason to make it about you or to make it about me. It was genuinely just a tweet about the king's passing. I'm curious about what the process is now. So you seem to know something about this too, Leanne. So no women can go to the funeral. Where do they do it? What do they do?
It was it was in the king's wishes that before he died, that he have a night ceremony in the evening and that no women attend. It would just be men.
Wow.
That's as far as I read, I must be honest.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, okay. I'm checking out.
in Jewish tradition, you say long life when someone has died. So that also sounds odd, right? To someone who isn't Jewish, and says, I wish you wish their family. You say, I wish you long life. And Ruth makes that point. So it's very weird that we've got all these things, and it's not something to fight with people about. Genuinely, it's just kind of ridiculous if you do fight with people over something like this. So I thought it would be interesting to mention, because I'm always interested in how these protocols kick in and what happens and who takes over and who's the heir apparent to the Zulu kingdom.
I haven't heard that, nor have I gotten an answer to fully understand the significance of being buried at night and the significance or the meaning of being just being surrounded by men, as opposed to also having the rest of your family around. Yeah, there were a lot of other things that I learned over the weekend. Supposedly, way, way, way back, there used to be sometimes a time between when the king actually passed away or bowed out and when the public would know. And also, I have many questions as much as I was finding all of this out. And yeah, with that time, a black bull would be killed, and the skin of that bull would be used to wrap the king. And so he was wrapped with this hide. And then there would also be, this is really taking it generations ago, sometimes certain people would also have to be killed and buried with the king as well.
People.
Now,
people, yeah. I mean, King Shaka famously he was so upset when his mother died, Queen Nandi, that he went around KwaZulu-Natal murdering like hundreds, if not thousands of people and impaling them on stakes because he was cross. And he went around, he ordered that every female cow who'd given birth to a calf was killed, so that all those calves could feel what it was like to lose their mothers like he had.
There was a thing as well where if twins were born, it was a sign of a spirit. So one would be suffocated with sand in their mouths and then buried.
Come on now. So what was common?
Crazy, yeah. Well, I suppose not crazy to all, but crazy to some.
Yeah, what was common with or within the Zulu nation is it would be the king's favorite wife. So this is actually when being the favorite doesn't work out for you. And Inqegu, and Inqegu, which is more like a right-hand man or personal servant, who would most commonly be killed and buried with you. So don't want that. I'm not your friend if you pass away.
Yeah, no,
I want them to die. I don't know you. Excuse me. So
you can send us your comments if you're watching us live on YouTube this morning. We've got a whole new system going, and it looks very cool. And this is just the beginning. We're obviously going to test this out over a period of weeks, and apparently we can put up videos, and we can show. If for example we're talking about something that's happened on the internet, we can actually show the video, which is I think kind of cool.
Can we make a deal?
What's the deal?
Can we do some like goat videos and kitten videos and dog videos?
I think there's enough of that on YouTube if you don't mind.
Oh.
I'm not going to compete with that shit.
I tried, peeps. I tried.
Yeah.
It's so disappointed.
Well, I thought that would be an interesting place to start because it happened. I think the announcement was made straight after our show on Friday that the king had died. And, Peter Matlari, who died that week as well. I heard of some other people who are probably not well known to everybody, but who also died over the weekend. It's like
there were some actors and actresses.
2021 is not letting us down in terms of drama, right?
No, it's not for the soft-hearted, that's for sure. 2020 kind of, took all the mollycoddling and softness out of us and prepared us for what 2021 is going to be.
No, exactly. It's worth also mentioning that since we're doing this video thing professionally now every morning, and it's taken us such a long time to do it, that we probably should like make ourselves look a bit better. And there's a funny comment here. Someone said about how now that you could watch this, color says now that you could watch this in HD, I can see that Gareth really needs to moisturize more. But what we are going to do,
oh my Lord.
No, it's hilarious. What we are going to do is I've managed to find some of those ring lights, those influencer lights.
The beauty ring.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get one of those for Sia and one for Leanne, so we can look much more pretty for you in the mornings.
Well, it'll be like putting lipstick on a pig, but I'll give it a try.
Come on, lipstick on a pig. What are you talking about?
Gosh.
if you want to get hold of us, if you want to talk to us this morning, you can do so on, the usual WhatsApp number 0797482090. And if you'd like to make a comment, by the way, you get to, we get to see you. So you can put a little avatar up there if you're going to be interacting with us regularly, and then we can see who we're talking to. You can also join up as a guest, and there's a whole lot of other things that we can do too. So it's going to be exciting. There's stuff going on, which I think should make it a lot more exciting and interesting to be on the show.
That's unless you load shed. That's something that's back in action.
Oh my word! I got a double dose that on Friday when I did the whole show in the dark.
Yes.
I got another load shedding after that.
Oh no.
And I missed a meeting. The client. No. Then I lost the client.
You got load shat. I love it. Leanne got load shat.
Oh, I'm so tired of load shitting.
It happened to me. I've got this light. I mentioned it the other day. There's this light attached to a fan in my room. So when there's been load shedding, then it's on. And now they're doing it.
Is it your one and only fan?
Yeah, it's my only fan. I've actually opened up an only fan just for it. So the light comes on if there's been load shedding. It's almost like to tell you, ha ha, look what happened to you, you idiot. So I'll wake up in the middle of the night and this light will be on. I'll be like, oh shit, they did this during the evening. So it's happening. But somebody said that there's actually a lot of trouble going on there. We should be very worried because there's some of the generation that we have in what is it, Eskom's kind of electricity supply chain has been cut off, and it's being very badly maintained. And so why we're having this. It's quite a serious situation.
The reason why we went to stage 2 is because there were 2 substations that were experiencing problems, right?
Yeah.
As they were fixing those and as we were going through our thing, another 6 went down. So that's why load shedding has been extended until Wednesday.
Right.
We can point and blame, but there are new people at the helm. Can you just imagine being these new people?
Yeah.
Oh, and as you fix 2, 6 go down. I mean, do you love your job? Because they're hating theirs right now.
Yeah, well, they chose to work at Eskom. It's like if you choose to work at the SABC, you only have yourself to blame when it's an embarrassment.
I get you, Leanne, but I'm sorry, I'm not there yet when it comes to sympathy. No. I just feel so screwed over. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for Eskom either, frankly. All right, let's take a look at some of the stories in the news this morning. First of all, tertiary institutions across South Africa have braced for a planned national shutdown today. There's something a little twisted in our logic around universities. We don't seem to have figured out yet what to do with universities, and what I mean is that there are so many South Africans who are trying to get into universities. They see it as a key to being able to get a job one day and being able to matter and being able to have some sort of future secured for yourself, having a career perhaps. But we've put such emphasis on universities that it's like a be-all or end-all situation for some people. As a result, there's this desperation among young people in this country to get into university. And I think probably that's not the right messaging. You're always only going to have a certain percentage of the population who go to university. And if we open up universities to absolutely everybody, regardless of merit, regardless of whether or not you can afford a very expensive and complicated degree course, what you do is you actually devalue the whole thing. So there's an element of being at a university that has to be elitist. And this doesn't go down with a lot of people very well because they reckon that universities need to be for everybody. And frankly, I think the opportunity should be available to everybody. But it can't cost nothing, A, because otherwise it's worth nothing. And B, you have to be really, really smart to get into a university. Otherwise, what's the point? If everybody has degrees, what difference does it make, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember in my day, darling, it was maybe 5 out of 40 people who got into university. It wasn't a given thing. You had to work to get there. You had to have certain credits, and you needed to have the money to support it.
Right.
I thought about this over the weekend, that I think part of this push for going to university and making it through there is this desperation and panic around just getting a job and getting a comfortable life, once you're setting yourself up. And so for a lot of people, that still equates to a degree will give me greater access or greater chances at a comfortable job. But the sad reality as well is you're going to get that degree, and in a lot of cases in this country, you're also going to struggle to get a job. It is sad, but maybe it's also...
I'll tell you what, you've made your problems double, because now you owe the university money because fees are so expensive and you don't have a job. So just think very carefully about this. There may be some merit in learning a skill, in apprenticing at someone's business, and trying to find a way to, even if you intern for somebody and you make coffee there for, 6 to 8 months, and that's all you do, you may end up having more in the way of income and in the way of prospects than you would if you go to university, rack up hundreds of thousands of rands in fees, which you then have to pay, and then you don't get a job afterwards.
But maybe
it's also just the sign of the times, and every generation blames the one before. I just wanted to say that so that I could sing. Never mind.
But it's so true. And also 20 years ago, you couldn't get anywhere without a degree. Now it's completely different. In fact, it's a surprise if someone has a degree. When you look at their resume or you hire someone through conversation, it'll be an absolute surprise if they say, oh, by the way, I have a degree in so-and-so.
You think we're there yet?
I think so. If I look at the industry I'm in, people have just made it for themselves. They've pushed and worked.
The other thing is that, frankly, if you're an employer these days, one of the few things that you don't care about is what the degree of the person in question is. And I've asked a number of people who employ others, and very few of them say, oh, the degree matters. It's more about the character of the person that you're hiring. And frankly, a bunch of students who spent most of their year protesting and then got a degree because the university had to issue a degree, those are not people at the top of my list to hire. And I'm sure that goes for a lot of other people who are employing in the world right now. So the real story is here that there are threats of days of protests from various universities across the country last week by students. At the center of the dispute is the historic debt that is expected to be taken away. Now, you cannot rack up debt and then expect the taxpayer to pay for your debt. This is another thing about education. You do not have an automatic right to a degree. Nobody in this country does. All right? And if you think that other people have to be responsible for paying for you to get your degree for free, then you don't understand how economics works, and you're probably not going to be useful to anyone when you have your degree anyway. This is basic logic. And it upsets me that so many people in this country think, I need to have a degree so I can get a job, but I also don't want to pay for that degree, and I expect the job to be waiting for me when I'm finished, as well as no debt at all. Nothing comes from nothing. And if something comes easy, it goes easy. Just like we've spoken about so many times on the show. If you win the lottery, chances are you'll end up poor again one day. So stop thinking things are for free. It's a very poor mindset. And it's a mindset of impoverishment. You're just going to get yourself deeper in the hole. So anyway, Mthokozi Ntumba, who's a father of 4, was killed. Many students were arrested during protests near Wits last week. We know about that. He came out of the clinic, this poor man, and got shot by the police. The threat of a nationwide shutdown comes after South Africa's Union of Students, SAUS, I've never heard of them, presented a memory. It's the SAUS. It's like a salsa.
Oh, it's salsa.
Presented a memorandum of
I was
demand.
resisting the urge to do so too.
So, listen to this. Wits SRC spokesperson Pendulum Mfeka said, "We cannot be meeting with ministers and deputy ministers because they know our issues, and that is to announce free education, and anything other than that is a deference to the real issue. Okay, so you want totally free education and you want a degree, and South Africa's taxpayers must pay for you to get an education, and not just a primary or a high school education, but now you want university for free as well. What's after that? Do you want your doctorate to be paid for by the taxpayer? Would you like the South African taxpayer to just give you money straight out of the fiscus because you deserve it? This is not a way to succeed. Anyway, the health department has set up more than 50 inoculation sites throughout South Africa to do vaccines.
Have we moved on from doing just medical staff?
I don't know, but apparently people have to be immunized, and the medical staff are obviously the first ones to do so. More than 145,000 health workers have already been immunized with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The government is planning on securing 9 million more doses, and a third batch arrived in the country on Saturday. It's been distributed across various sites on Sunday. So they say we expect a further allocation midweek and towards the end of the week as well. So I don't know whether it's time for you, Leanne, to register and get it done.
No, I think it goes medical workers, YouTubers and influencers, and then the rest of the people.
Okay. All right. Very good. Chief Justice Mogoeng intends to appeal the Judicial Conduct Committee ruling that he apologized for his pro-Israel comments, and good for him. You don't get to censor people's talk. You don't get to tell people what to say, and you certainly don't get to change their opinion about something unless you can put up a really good argument. So this Judicial Conduct Committee said that he had to retract his comments on Israel because during a webinar that he did last year, he cited biblical references to justify his comments about Israel. Africa for Palestine, the South African boycott and divestments and sanctions, those are the BDSM people, and Women's Cultural Group laid complaints about Mogoeng's comments. Well, you're allowed to complain, but that doesn't mean anybody cares. So Mogoeng has said, I'm going to appeal this. Basically, screw you. You can't change my mind. Thank you very much, Chief Justice. You're going to be missed when you step down, which he has to do later on. You know, you don't get to be Chief Justice forever.
Jeez, he's been around for ages.
Yeah, he has. But he's been very good at what he's been doing, and I think we'll be sad to lose him as Chief Justice. Anyway, that's the big story this morning. So a big FU, middle finger, to all those people who said, you can't say that. You have to say what we want you to say. No, he doesn't. And neither does anyone else in this country. You can't force people to say things. Dr. Fauci, he said authorities are considering cutting social distancing rules to 3 foot. Ooh, what a difference that's going to make.
That actually scares me. I've been, yeah. I'll keep quiet.
Go on. No, say it.
No, I'm happy for people to wear masks and to not touch me in the queue. And now all this might fall apart one day. It's devastating.
Leanne, you can still stand as far away from other people as you like.
Yeah.
You know? Your mic's just gone on mute.
Muted yourself.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
I'm checking out. Bye.
Well, Fauci says that they may have changed the rules. They might make it 3 feet instead of 6 feet that you have to distance from someone. To me, this sounds completely arbitrary and stupid. And I really think there are places all over the world that are opening up now, and it's probably a really good thing that that's happening. A lot of these rules just don't make any sense, and many of them aren't really valid anymore. And then one last story about COVID-19 and the lockdowns and vaccines. The Netherlands has become the latest country to suspend the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine over concerns over possible side effects. So these are not stories that people who are already nervous to take the vaccine want to hear. But the Dutch government said that the move, which will last until the end of March, is a precaution. Apparently, Ireland has made a similar decision over reports of blood clotting events in adults. So there are some people who are saying, listen, and you know that these vaccines have been put together and sent out very, very quickly. So there probably will be some people who will be affected adversely. And
there's a reason why it takes a decade to develop a vaccine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, here's a very funny comment from COVID Solutions. Johnson & Johnson is such a trustworthy company. I hope the vaccine isn't as dangerous as their baby powder. Yeah. So I know it's BDS, Jared. He says it's BDS, not BDSM, Gareth. That's something entirely. I know that's the joke, Jared. I call the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement BDSM because I think they're stupid. But that's just me. Mundo is making an interesting comment here. He says, if universities are free, then how are they meant to run these institutions on a daily basis and pay maintenance fees, etc.? We know they can't depend on government. This is stupid. Well, yes. I mean, who's going to pay those people? You are, Fundo is the answer. And whether you have a degree or not, doesn't matter. Now we're all going to have to shoulder other people getting degrees. And by the way, a lot of these costs include free board and lodging at a dormitory or a hostel, right? And so basically these students are asking you to pay for them to live. They don't want to have to pay for their own lives. They want to go out and drink with their mates at varsity, which is all you do at university when you're not studying.
And let me tell you, I live down the road from 2 universities.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is happening. There is absolute chaos every night of the week.
Look at you complaining. You used to be one of those.
I really sound like a Karen.
Yep.
You're a Karen, a massive Karen. But you used to be
one of those.
But
that is what's happening.
You used to be loud.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I was actually quite studious at university.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as going out during the week. If anything, it was a Thursday. But no, I'm sorry. I'm old school that way. That's the way I work. That's the way I studied. That's how I succeeded.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
So when did you start becoming a problem?
When I got married.
Oh.
That's when everything changed. I was
don't
fine
men
by
always
myself.
just ruin everything, Leanne?
Maybe it's the institution of marriage. Maybe it's not just men. Who knows?
I'm very relieved. Today is the first day that we do not have to talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on Oprah Winfrey.
You mentioned them, you broke it.
But I mentioned it, and I've broken the rule. So yeah, you've probably still been obsessed with it and reading articles and picking up stuff afterwards, haven't you? I know you have.
It is so bad that this weekend alone, I read the first article on where Meghan's diamonds come from, the bracelet that she was wearing.
Very important.
And then this even I'll admit, it's just pitiful and goes way too far. The lipstick that Oprah was wearing. I know. I don't know why to. Really? I don't know. It just went there.
I'm like at a happy medium. I'm still, if something is more than a day old, I don't bother reading it. So if it's yesterday's date, then I'm not into it. So I have to be like on top of it because there's so much repetition at the moment in all of the news articles and all of the videos. So you've got to be picky.
I went to lunch yesterday with family friends, and we were sitting talking about, these WhatsApp groups, because now there are all these WhatsApp groups for various neighborhoods and things, right?
Yeah.
Like they could be about security or about, keeping the neighborhood clean, or people who are trying to sell like their washing machine, and you can sell it on the neighborhood WhatsApp group or whatever. And I know in complexes and buildings, people are also encouraged to be on these groups. Now, I'm not on any of them, and I chose not to be because I think it's kind of annoying, and you can become obsessed with this stuff. And one of the people I was at lunch with was saying that her husband's on a number of these groups, and it's all very negative news a lot of the time. It's all kind of there's a suspicious man outside this entrance, or be on the lookout because someone's kid's bike was stolen last Thursday, or any of that stuff. And I know that the people on these groups are trying to be helpful, and it's obviously good that people are aware, and you can't put your head in the sand. But I think that kind of thing can very easily turn into like a negative cycle. And we talk about paying too much attention to the news on this show. There are those people who are addicted to those news channels, and they watch them 24/7. And, if it's all about like COVID and the deaths, and you watch that ticket tape on the screen with how many people have died of COVID, and it can really upset lots and lots of people and make their lives a misery. And I think these groups are the same. You've got to be very careful what you allow to come through to you all the time, because it eventually does influence your mood. If you're hearing about crime and suspicion and violence and the dangers in your neighborhood 24/7, it's going to make you a very miserable person. What's
Sia,
wrong,
what are you laughing at?
What are you laughing at? Go on. What is it?
Laughing at the fact that the word suspicion was used and Leanne didn't jump at that. Wow.
Oh no, I've been chomping at the bits, trust me. Especially because I'm part of I live in a neighborhood of streets and avenues, and the avenue that I live in is super long. It almost spans 2 suburbs. So I'm on a big group for all of that. And then I'm on for the lower end of the group as well. And then I'm on another one for just our 2 blocks. So
you see, it's
a lot.
Like what is useful about those things before we trash them and say?
Very. I really do rely on them.
For what?
There's a lot of shit going down in my hood, yo.
Okay.
Yeah, but what do you? I mean, do you need to be on all 3 of those groups?
Yeah. So a lot of it is the fact that we're at the moment, my suburb is experiencing either double load shedding, or maybe like on and off load shedding where we're not sticking to the schedule. A lot of it is crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of crime. We're trying to find a happy balance between paying security companies and private security guards. So we're all moving on to different systems. No, they're important. Water outages, and is my water on? Is yours off? Logging complaints. We're hooked up to the counselors as well, not like psychological counselors, the other type. Although we probably need the other type too.
Yeah, it sounds like your neighborhood is slightly more traumatized than most.
Definitely.
Well, listen, I think that you've got to find a happy medium. You know, if you are reading all this stuff day in and day out, it's eventually going to start wearing you down. And the same goes obviously for news and social media too. So you've almost got to have, you know how you can't sit and eat a peppermint crisp tart every day for lunch because you will eventually just become enormously fat and explode. And
Who says that?
Well, Mr. Fast Metabolism.
Don't listen to that person. They're just being negative.
Wait till you get to like 30. See, I know it's still only 15 years away for you, but when you eventually get to 30 and your metabolism starts going a little bit slower, and it will. See, I've got bad news for you. It will. One day you'll be fat like me. Just wait. Turn is coming. You can't sit there every day and eat ice cream all the time because you're going to get fat. And ice cream is not very nutritious and it's not good for you. You need to do some exercise. You need to read books to keep your mind active. You need to do these things. And similarly, you have to put yourself on a diet of information. And it has to be useful information, but it also has to be inspiring and positive stuff a lot of the time. If you're only listening
I'm totally analyzing the facial and body language right now. And Gareth, no, we're sounding like older people, and Sia is the bulletproof younger person, and this is never going to happen to him.
Yep.
And there's nothing as an older person that you can do to warn people enough. There's nothing. It's never going to be taken seriously.
Are you still talking about the food thing, or have we moved on to the other stuff?
Food.
I think that's
food and everything.
Okay, well, the everything thing isn't just a young person thing. I think young people are probably better at this than older people, frankly, because it's old people who are attached to like these news channels 24/7. It's not young people; they could care less.
Yeah, so, no, for sure.
There's kind of a built-in immunity there, but you really have to be careful. Also surrounding yourself with negative people is the same thing. If you're around miserable, negative people whose lives are in turmoil all the time, it starts to do that to you. I wanted to talk about something else. I don't know if we've got time now, but I like order in my house, in my immediate environment. I'm probably extremely OCD about these things, and most people aren't. But I popped in to visit a relative on Saturday, and he just lives in absolute chaos. All right, everything around him is just chaotic. There are, bowls for dog and cat food in all the rooms. There's there's a table here, and then in the middle of the room there's another table, and there's just stuff piled on it, and iPads and remote controls, and there's not even place to put the tea tray down for it's just chaos. It's like, it's kind of like a bomb exploded in the room. And I said to him, I don't know
Is
how
it
you live.
untidy, or is there just a lot of stuff?
It's a lot of stuff. It's not dirty. It's not filthy or anything. It's just chaotic. And I can't concentrate in environments like that. If I'm in a chaotic environment, it actually starts to impact on me. Like I can't focus and concentrate. I won't be able to have a conversation with you if you're a chaotic, messy kind of person. And there's a lot of stuff, and it just doesn't seem to be orderly. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm willing to accept that I am the opposite, and maybe I take that to a degree that most people don't have to and don't want to. But man, put me in a room like that, which is just chaotic. I can't even focus. It's ridiculous.
Ooh, the chaos.
Yeah.
But I bet he's one of those people. He knows exactly where everything is.
Yeah, he does. He likes it. I mean, it's the way he's always been. It's just he's not a tidy person like me. And I didn't, no one punished me when I was a kid if I wasn't tidy. I just liked being tidy. And some people are not like that. I don't know how you imagine being married to someone who is the opposite of you. If you're an orderly person, they're chaotic, or if you're chaotic, they're orderly. You must
not going to work unless you're
fighting.
Unless you're like the extremes and you actually get off on going into a room that is completely messy and cleaning it up. But it's most likely not going to succeed.
No, I can't do it. Hey, I mean, if you, I have to have a very definite pattern and order and logic to my surroundings. And if you move a picture in my house, or you move a book on a table, I can immediately tell something's moved.
Oh my gosh, you would do terribly with my domestic worker. So I'm in between. I'm a clean person, very clean, and you can tell from my surroundings and my background, I'm quite minimalist. But I do have an arty side. So, I will have a messy desk, but I know where everything is. Mm-hmm. And then you get my domestic worker who I just let her do her thing. I don't give her rules. And I'll come in and a painting will have been turned completely upside down. My bed will be in a different part of the room. It's in a different direction. I'll have new curtains because she's cleaning the other ones, that are supposed to be dry cleaned only. But the upside down picture one, and then she crochets things for me, like little covers for the microphone, or
in the year 2021.
Yeah, this happens.
Crocheting, it's a thing.
This happens. Yes. If she decides that a bathroom mat is better served being under my desk chair, that's where it'll go. Huh. She created outside my bedroom doors, the French doors. She created out of stones a little semicircle of different colored stones and brought in from somewhere a red welcome mat.
So you're not even sure where it came from?
No. I mean, at one point I was waking up and walking into walls because my bed was turned into a different direction. And I had to stop.
Your domestic worker and I are not compatible at all.
You're like my brother, and he actually has banned me from telling him stories about her. It infuriates him so much.
Listen, I know, for example, if I have my T-shirts color coded, I'm that fucking anal about this.
Yeah,
it really matters to me to have order. I just love waking up in the morning, knowing where everything is, knowing what. I mean, I keep like two of basically everything. If there's toothpaste, I have a spare toothpaste. Is that your cat that's come to visit us?
Yeah, it is.
Just saw some ears peering.
She's on her last leg, so when she purrs, I just leave her to be.
Oh, yeah.
It's so sad, guys.
How old is that cat?
She's 16 or 17. I know that they can last until their 20s, but she's not been healthy all her life.
That's quite an old cat.
Yeah. She's the lots of my life, yo.
How many have you got now?
I think 4.
You old cat lady.
Like,
you're like that old lady on The Simpsons. Who
screams I'll own it. I'll own it.
No, I don't know. Listen, this mess chaos disorder thing, it screwed with my head on Saturday. I'm still thinking about it. That lets you know how bad it is for me. Can't do it, man. Even see, in the office, for example, like my desk is I've always got things nothing's at a right angle, I mean, at an acute or obtuse angle. It's all straight. It's 90 degrees or 180 degrees. It's all, and it stays the same. And I'll maybe, if I'm busy with books or I've got my papers or whatever, there may be a bit of disorder, but it's mostly arranged properly.
So my aunt was very much like that. And my mom and her used to work together in an office. And eventually, because she was so fastidious about where everything goes, she ended up using press stick to secure all of the items on her desk so that they would not ever be moved.
Wow.
Okay, that's something else that I've never done. My God. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, she was, another level.
Lucky asks this question. It's a good one. Can you go from being untidy to being tidy as you grow older?
Oh, yes, and definitely the opposite as well.
Yeah, it worked as the opposite for me, because growing up at home, when you're being followed and you're told to clean up after yourself and to do this and to do that, once I moved out of home, I thought, oh, okay, wait, is this how you are when people aren't following you? I actually went through a bit of a phase of being slightly disgusted with myself, because when you walk back into your room and you think, those pants have been there for the past 3 days now, sir.
Or when the flies are starting to gather around some takeaway box.
I have to be honest. And then it was a couple of months after moving out. Yeah. And it's like a treasure chest of things. Like, what am I going to find today?
The exact same thing happened to me. I mean, I was brought up in a household where you weren't even allowed to close the curtains during the day to watch TV, because that was considered slovenly. My mom had French linen in the guest room for wiping your hands or drying your hands, and we weren't allowed to use the linen. So many times we'd dry our hands, and my friends knew my mom for it. So we'd come out dripping and then dry them on your t-shirt type thing. Nothing was practical. It was just there for show. So that's what I was brought up with. And then I carried that into my marriage. And then when I got divorced, I went through that exact stage and just thought, let me let things go and see how I feel. And so I did. I let them go for a few months. And now I've kind of reached a good balance. Where I'm not
the road to hell. This is part of the reason I'm single. It's this big a problem to me. One of the reasons that I'm single is because I cannot abide a mess. And if someone else is in my life, they invariably are going to be messy. And I've never had anyone live with me for that reason.
They also think there are levels to things. Not that it makes it any easier. I think it makes it slightly worse. If your car is also disgusting and dirty, come on.
With with takeaway boxes and stuff lying around. No.
Have you ever been in someone's car and you literally have to dodge things while you're there? Like just to lift up files, just to put your feet down, and then that you try to place a cup somewhere, but there's everything space in the cup holder. It's oh.
Well, listen, it's 7 o'clock. We've got to take a quick break for the podcast, but we'll be back in a moment or two. We'll also speak to Willie Voss, who's the guy in charge at Waterfall Estate, and we've done a podcast series. In fact, we've done, I think it's 3 seasons of it with Waterfall already, and you can go and listen to those on cliffcentral.com, and it's really an interesting place. They're doing amazing work there, and it's worth checking in with this guy because he is managing an incredibly complex city within a city, and we'll find out from Willie how that works in the next hour. Also, take your calls and your comments. You can comment directly from YouTube. You can comment directly to us on the screen, which you can watch, obviously, if you don't want to listen to the podcast. But otherwise, 0797482090, cliffcentral.com on a Monday morning. Get ready for the 5th season of Blind History. The award-winning podcast takes a look at some of the most enduring heroes, greatest statesmen, most reprehensible villains, and despicable tyrants. Join me, Gareth, and my co-host Anthony Mederer for the new series of Blind History. Coming soon to cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What you doing? Get in the moment. Oh yeah. Show me some movement. Yeah, you can do it. Oh yeah. We light up on the weekends. We light up the Memphis. We light up. Oh yeah. We light up on the weekends. We light up.
The Bitcoin market can be unpredictable. Instead, invest in a great economic quarter by using a bit of your coin to get a Nando's quarter chicken and any single side for only 49 Rand. Nando's. Fire it up.
cliffcentral.com, Monday morning. It's just after 7 o'clock, and if your day is just starting now and you are ready to hit the road running, good for you. I've noticed how much traffic is back. I don't know if you've seen this, Leanne, but there's an enormous amount of traffic suddenly on the roads again. In fact, I've been caught in like 3 traffic jams in 3 weeks. So I'm already like, oh no, we're back to that. And I was busy every day last week. I was in the car quite a lot. It felt like a very normal week, and like a pre-COVID week. Strange.
Yeah, I'm seeing it a lot on weekends. So it's almost as if everyone's like very busy on a Saturday doing things and getting back to normal. But I haven't experienced the weekday traffic thing.
Yeah, it's definitely picking up. I mean, the highways are busy. I even noticed over the weekend there were quite a lot of people driving around shopping centers, parking lots were full, that kind of thing. So it's starting to get back to normal. I mean, this is what level 1's meant to be. I don't know how long level 1's going to carry on for, but hopefully not too much more. Let's just get everything back to normal.
So I don't mean to freak us all out, but that person who you were speaking to over the weekend, why do they suspect another lockdown? Do they know more than we do?
So no, this guy just managed to, he predicted long ago, like in January of last year, that we were going to have trouble. You know, when we were all looking at it and going, that's just something that's happening in China. And he said to me then, no, this is going to be a big deal. And I said to him, you're talking nonsense. You know, I kind of dismissed it. And then in March, I said to him, oh, shit, okay, so you were right. And he reckons that what's going to happen is there's going to be some very big or not big deal made around a third wave. And then we're going to, around Easter, go back into lockdown. I don't know whether this is true. It's pure speculation. But he seems to be on the money. He hasn't got it wrong one step of the way. So maybe he knows more than you. Maybe he knows more than you. Maybe he knows people who know more than the rest of us.
But we've learned to manage our own expectations.
Yeah.
Where we'd rather presume that a third wave and a third lockdown is going to hit, rather than we've learned to not be naive and positive, basically.
Yeah. Stupidly, blindly optimistic.
I actually feel my stomach beginning to churn at the idea of it again.
I don't want to go back there. I really don't. So I'm going to, I think I'll book my plans for Easter anyway. I mean, it's not going to be like, I'm not doing international travel or anything, but I'll make my plans in any case and we'll see what happens. All right. Here's an email. This is from B. She says, I laughed all morning after watching Gordon Sear on Wednesday. Now I'm going to belly laugh through the rest of the day following Dr. Ivan Mayer hiccoughing. Jesus Christ. The way you spell it, right? Because the way you spell it.
Yes.
Hiccuping uncontrollably on the DA's Inside Track show. I thought I'd share it. I doubt Sia would be as calm as Sizwe Hwarube if a guest started hiccuping on the show. Love your show. Love your stuff. All of you. Thank you. Thanks very much, B. So have you ever had a proper fit of hiccups where you can't stop?
Oh, I've gone to bed with them and woken up with them.
So it means you've been
not
doing
knowing how I got through the nights. Yeah.
How's that possible?
How do you fall asleep?
Eventually, you're so exhausted from the physicality of the whole thing. But yeah, it's happened. And, some people have these neat little hiccups as they do sneezes.
Yeah.
Mine are like guttural. It sounds like I've got a problem. And I actually become physically exhausted from them.
I've never had hiccups that have lasted too long. Thank goodness. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably get into a panic if it started carrying on for, more than 10 minutes. So I've had a few, and you control your breathing. You kind of take a couple of deep breaths, and then mine go away. So
yeah, sometimes you can try all of that, but you just need to look as far as the Guinness Book of World Records, and there are people who have had the hiccups for years.
You remember that guy that we played the clips of on the show who kept going, "Rrr," and he kept burping?
My word, yes.
Ultimate man.
No.
Your hiccoughing moment just reminded me of it's still clearly it was so bad for me, the fact that I still remember it, because it was when I was really, really young, and that stage when you're beginning to be comfortable with reading, and then you want to read everything just so that you can pronounce it, and you're so proud of yourself. And I remember I was in the lounge and we were scrolling through different channels on DSTV, and then everything pops up with details. And I thought, okay, here's a big, long word. This I can do. I'll get it sorted out. And I thought, Ron Desvuz. Rendezvous is coming.
Oh no!
And my whole family, including
they laughed at you.
oldest friend, my older sister's friends were there. They just packed up laughing at me. So just that embarrassment still lingers today. So it's rendezvous.
I had that with Archipelago. There was one news bulletin where I literally read Archipelago.
Ooh.
And there was also another time with, in the horsey world, which is very posh. I called it dressage, where it's dressage.
Listen, I remember in grade 2 or something, I was a little kid and I was so embarrassed because I couldn't remember how to spell says, as in Leanne says she's going to the shops today. And it's such an obvious thing when you don't think about these things once you've learned how to spell a word. But I was so humiliated because the teacher asked us. We used to spell these words out in class, and I couldn't remember how to spell says. I think I must have said like SEZ.
Or maybe,
no.
but also think of the word said and how differently spelt that is.
Right. It's complicated. Listen, it's hard to communicate, man. It's hard to remember this shit.
It's a bit on a tangent here, but I'm remembering this since it's so top of mind. I saw my niece and nephew, the two older ones, over this weekend, and they are so, they are the Disney Channel YouTube generation,
right?
That I've picked up their language is actually so different, and it's so Americanized based on what they watch all the time. So they use these American phrases, and their mothers are now actually trying to, nip it in the bud before it goes too far. But
this is interesting. A friend of mine whose kid is probably about 6 now, he's actually speaking with an American accent because he watches too much TV with American voice.
It really is crazy, but you think about it and it's like, yeah, well, if you're actually spending, we know how kids are attached to technology now, 2, 3, 4 hours a day watching this is your life. It makes sense how it's infiltrated so much. But I heard my niece go, oh yeah, let me go and grab some soda. I'm like, soda? What are you talking about? Then I also
cold drink.
Yes. Then I also caught her asking about a mobile. Yeah. Where's the mobile? I'm like, it is not a mobile, honey.
Seriously?
It is a cell phone.
Yeah. So look, I mean, my youngest nephew, he's also he's now at that stage, probably 4, 5, and he just starts saying things in an accent. He's like, you know how you kind of play with words, and he'll tease and he'll say stuff and he'll make it sound like this or whatever, because he's just playing with different sounds and trying to figure things out. But if he started speaking in an American accent, I would lose my mind.
Well, I mean, you think about how it works. So, I always use my extended family as an example. So my aunt is South African with a South African accent. She's married to a New Yorker, and they lived and brought up their children mostly in London.
Right.
And so the children have British accents, English accents. You don't get British accents, but an English accent. And
well, there's different kinds of English accent too, but
but how it's all because of school and friends. And think about now how those things are changing, and you're not always around school and friends. So if your mom comes from Norway and lives in South Africa, you may very well have a Norwegian accent.
Yeah. I mean, who was it that we always talk about on the show who's got a kid? It was Melania Trump. Do you remember, like, Baron Trump when he was a kid? There was that clip that was going around of an interview where he talked like his mother. He speaks like this. He's got the Slovenian accent. It was very, very cute, but it must be strange if you're in a country and you grow up with the accent of your parents. I mean, I didn't learn to speak from school. I learned to speak from my parents.
We think that.
No, I think school helped. I mean, otherwise you'd all come out of school sounding the same, and people don't.
Have you heard people from my ex-school?
You were at school in the South, hey?
Yeah, and I don't know how I didn't get the accent. I really don't know, but I survived it.
You can put on the accent, right? So if I said to you now, Leanne, how was your weekend? And you answer me in full south of Joburg, how do you say it? Go on.
No, it was Kif. We went to the drive-in and we saw some people, but it's like, I don't know.
Did you have a lekker time?
Yeah, I had a nice time,
Nice, Tom.
but I have to put it on. It doesn't come naturally.
I think it also depends on what is also interesting to you. And this is particularly just a child growing up. What is exciting to you, what you focus on. Because I also see, particularly with my nieces and nephew, their mannerisms are also very, for lack of a better term, YouTube-like. So everything is spoken in this excitable manner and gay. And so try dealing with that at like
that's worse than a
that's worse in the morning.
Huffing fit.
Yeah, that's the thing now. It's just like they'll dart into the kitchen, go, "Hey guys!" Like, no, we aren't guys. We're your family, and this is the kitchen. It's not. It's not a stage. Just calm down.
There's going to be a lot of this stuff. You're picking up on it now because you're paying attention, but most people don't even see it, and then they realize, like, when the kids get to about 10 years old, this kid is more of a YouTuber than a person.
It's like when the dad says at the dinner table, "How was school?" and you go, "Welcome back to my channel."
Oh God, no! I think we'll kill myself.
It's already happening. I was going to say it's going to happen, but it is actually already happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I shudder!
Can I have a soda? Just don't start that. Listen, I mean, you can't help it because American culture has pervaded everything. I mean, the way people talk, the way people, what we buy, the clothes we wear, everything. It's very much influenced by America. I wonder, as we move into the Chinese era, which is inevitable, right? Whether we're going to adopt some Chinese.
Well, I mean that's happening. If I look at extreme bodycon people that I follow all these weird channels on YouTube. But there are a lot of people who are Western Americans and European looking who are having body modification to look Asian. So they're having eye surgery and jaw surgery. There are girls who are into the whole, Japanese, there's a word for it. It means cute.
Yes.
I can't remember what it is now. But living that lifestyle where they choose a primary color or a color, maybe it's pink or green, and everything in their lives is that color.
Calm down, Willy Wonka. Like, who does that?
It's happening. The Japanese culture, and I know we're talking about China here, and I know there's a big difference, but there's a spillover, and there's this obsession that's beginning to grow in Western culture.
Really? Because I always heard it
was
the other way
around.
I always heard it was the other way around, and for the longest time, people in the East have been trying their best to look like people in the West. But obviously, that's likely to change at some point. I'm just wondering, like, are we all going to one day speak with a Chinese kind of English accent? It's possible, and maybe we'll be buying things that Chinese people buy, and we'll be doing things, eating at places, and changing our lives to accord more with what goes on in China as China becomes the ascendant power on earth, which is, as I said earlier, inevitable. Because America really has.
I'm seeing it happen in tiny pockets. It will happen.
Yeah. Well, Ruth says, "Oh my God, I'm going to prison when the Chinese age hits South Africa." No, you won't. You'll be working hard, slave.
Like you're in a prison.
You'll be working hard for your overlords. Yeah. Your overlords won't let you go to prison unless you're going to build bridges and things. I'm amazed, though, at the way that China gets stuff done. And I know that it's an authoritarian place, and there's very little consideration for human rights and freedom, and they've got that social what do they call it? A social merit system or whatever, where you get points and you get points deducted if you behave badly. I mean, it's all very, very scary and draconian, but you've got to admire, at the same time as being nervous about all those things that I've just mentioned, have to admire how they built in the last 50 years, they built 200 cities in China, built from scratch, 200 cities.
Oh, they built all the hospitals during COVID.
No, they had a COVID hotel, 40,000 people, and it was built in a week and a half. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, the rest of us are sitting around on our hands, not getting enough done, and
still dealing with load shedding and water cuts.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Goodness, yeah.
Moaning about what the right word is to use for Meghan Markle's child, that kind of stupid nonsense. Kind of ridiculous. No, it is. It's ridiculous. And this is something that Bill Maher actually, who I listen to from time to time. Bill Maher does a show in real time on HBO in the US, and he was saying we're a stupid nation, talking about the US. It's like we're all involved in a woke competition, while China is building football stadiums and hotels and hospitals and bridges, and Americans are worried about some slogan in a protest. There was a big protest in London over the weekend. I don't know if you saw this.
What about?
It was like an anti-police protest because a girl went missing in London last week, and they found the body, and apparently they suspect that the guy who did it, who kidnapped her and killed her, was a policeman. So there was this huge anti-police protest in London, and people were screaming "F the police" and all the rest of it. And it seems to have also been infiltrated by a number of kind of left-wing activists who, I suppose, are trying to do their own version of the BLM protests in America. But it all happened over the weekend in London, and people are saying, this is a mirror of what's been going on in the US with George Floyd, which of course is also ongoing. That trial is going to start once they've got a jury, and no one wants to be on that jury. Trust me, for the George Floyd thing. So, another thing you want to put in your diary is, I think, is it next week that we have a public holiday? Next week, the 21st is Human Rights Day, right?
Yeah.
So that means that, the 21st is Human Rights Day. That's Sunday, which means that we get Monday off next week. So there will bonus. There will not be a show on Monday. And if you don't have to work on Monday next week, put it in your diary now. We tend to forget that March has that Human Rights Day public holiday. So there's one to remember. But then after that, we don't have one. Oh, no, we do. We've got 27th of April, Freedom Day. We have the 1st of May, Workers' Day. But then there's that big gap.
You know what's really exciting?
What?
So I work for a UK company, so I get the UK banking holidays as well.
You do?
Oh.
How many days is that?
Well, you see, because I'm new, I don't get to take them off, and I'm also trying to make money and make my mark. So I haven't actually taken complete notice of it. But I see emails flying around about, remember, guys, next week, banking holiday, and you get the Friday off. It's all very exciting.
Yeah, Silas says when China does take over, which some people say they already have, there are going to be no more public holidays. Forget about it. You work every day.
My Lord. South Africans live for their public holidays. Do not flip with our public holidays.
You can't mess that around.
Well, I listen. There's so many. It's hard to even keep up. I think we are one of the countries that has the most public holidays in the world. We have 12 altogether, and I think France has got 15 because the French are extra lazy. The French. I mean, you even on a Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning, the French aren't always necessarily at work. They'll close the shop because today I've decided I would take the day off.
Mm-hmm.
They really live at work.
I mean, I'm remembering a beautiful holiday that I had in Provence, and staying in these little villages, and you never knew when the bakery was going to be open. It would open when it opened, And when
right.
they were closed, his brother, who they'd had a fight so many years ago because of the way they bake their bread, his brother's bakery would be open. But this chocolatier would be closed at that time because of this. But you never knew.
That novelty would wear off so quickly if that was my everyday life. That would be so frustrating, actually.
I've got to just refer to, we were talking about kids learning to speak like Americans or whatever, and I just got this message from Janet. She says, my daughter only really started speaking at age 5.5, as she was mostly nonverbal. We were told to play music and let the TV be on in the background, and that's how they pick up words. Purple and orange, she says in an American accent. Purple and orange.
Orange.
And often in the morning, she will greet us by saying, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So
Wow.
you were joking, Leanne, but look at this. It's probably not ideal, but compared to the gibberish, we prefer the accent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still, it's a very
good luck
unique
to you.
situation. Mm.
Oh, that's terrible. And then, no, I think it's terrible. Jenny says, if you have Greek, Italian, or Portuguese grandmothers, then you learn very quickly that shit down means sit down. Shit down means sit down. And Woodworths instead of Woolworths.
Oh.
Woodworths. Okay. So lots of other messages of people saying they hate the fact that their kids sound American because of the TV. But clearly we've hit a nerve.
Yeah, look, I grew up with a lot of English TV, and the books, the audio books that I had as a child were all British accents. The cassette tapes and CDs that I had, a lot of them were English. So yeah, I had a very different upbringing in those terms.
Like, I know for me, one of my major influences in how I speak was a teacher who I absolutely was obsessed with, and I loved her, and I still love her to this day. It's a little scary then that I'm like Facebook friends with her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she doing now? So I fangirl like that. But she was so eloquent, and she minded her P's and Q's, and I would just be enamored with everything. I remember one of the first things I learned from her is there's no E sound in English. She says E is in Afrikaans. You say it's hair and it's air, and you sit on a chair. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that too then.
It's not a chair.
It's not a chair. It's a chair.
Listen, I'm not going to interfere because they're not my children, but with my brother's kids, every now and then they'll say something. I go like, what did you say?
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. No, I got to be careful. In trouble there. All right, let me welcome to the show this morning, Willie Vos. We've spoken to Willie before, but not on this show. And he's been a part of the cliffcentral.com family for a long while now. I'll quickly give you a bit of background because there's a lot happening at Waterfall, which is what Willie does as his day job. But I'm going to give you a bit of a picture, and you can imagine for a minute riding your bike through the city, never being stopped by a red light. Imagine a city powered using 100% recycled waste. Imagine always being connected to the latest community alerts and news, which we were talking about earlier in real time. Imagine a safe and clean city that is self-sustaining. Well, as technology continuously evolves, everything around us is getting much, much smarter, from your computer, your phone, your TV, to your fridge, even your clothes. Just about everything that we use in everyday life can be enabled for analyzing, storing, sending data. It can be used to improve various aspects of our lives. And what happens when you look at the bigger picture? If you start to see the city and you start to think about how cities are getting smarter every day. When things get smart, it is the city that conforms to the citizen, not the other way around. And this is really what our new series is all about. It's the third season we've done with Waterfall, and it's all about smart cities. And we're going to hear about places like Prague, Singapore, Copenhagen, Oslo, and Tokyo, and then bring it home to Waterfall Estate in Johannesburg, South Africa, which really is a city within a city. And Willie, it's your job to run these things at Waterfall. It's a huge business that you're involved in there. It's a lot that you have to do on a daily basis, right?
Good morning, Gareth. Yes, but I must say I'm fortunate that I've got a good team, various people assisting us.
Yeah.
And one person can't do it on its own, but it is a rather large environment in which we are operating. It's considering it being a private institution. It's about 2,200 hectares in total that we are working on, and I can tell you that we never have a dull moment here.
So tell me quickly, because for people who don't live in Johannesburg, who don't know Waterfall, and maybe they haven't heard our podcast series yet, Waterfall Estate comprises, I mean, a lot of people will know where the Mall of Africa is, right? That's an incredible development right in the middle of Waterfall. But you guys have how many residential estates inside Waterfall City?
Gareth, at the moment, we've got 8 different residential estates. I think by the time we are finished, we will have close to 12. It changes a little bit from time to time in terms of the size and so on, but at the moment we've got just over 6,000 residential units already completed, and we have approximately 18,000 people living here. We say sleeping here every day because there are many more people coming to Waterfall on a daily basis. Our estimate at the moment is that it's close to 25,000 people that are working at Waterfall on a daily basis, if you take the various offices and so on into consideration.
So tell me, because again, for people who are trying to imagine what this looks like, Waterfall is kind of right in the middle between Pretoria and Johannesburg. It's a huge expanse of land. It's a beautiful piece of property. I mean, there's a river that goes through it. There's shopping centers, there are hospitals, there are schools. Is it true that you don't even have to leave Waterfall City anymore? They don't have to go anywhere. Like, you could send your kids to school, you could do your shopping, you could pretty much do anything. During lockdown, it must have been one of the best places to be.
I must say, especially during lockdown, it was a fantastic place to be because we literally, we have just over 30 kilometers of walking trails, and we've got a mountain bike trail as well. That's now specifically Waterfall Country Estate and the Equestrian Estate, the retirement villages that have the access to that particular infrastructure. But the other estates, we also have walking trails, and the proximity to the shops are really very convenient. We do have the Waterfall Hospital on the development. Look, all the shops and other amenities are obviously open to people of the general public as well. It's not exclusively to people living at Waterfall, but if you live at Waterfall, then it is very convenient because we've got 2 schools, or 2 school groups, let me rather put it that, because we've got the pre-primary school, the junior primary, senior primary, and usually the high school and the high school components as well. We've got 1 tertiary institution that's part of the Kiro group, or Stadio is what they call them. And then we have the hospital, the frail cares, the retirement villages, and then obviously the offices where most people can do, it's retail, commercial, as well as a little bit of light industrial that we have on the development.
It's perfect. And I mean, well, we've all learned how important it is to be located in a place where you can take maximum advantage of all of this stuff, and where you don't have to be traveling far distances between work and home. And I think for a lot of people, this sounds ideal. You guys have won a ton of awards, haven't you? Tell me about some of the awards that you've won.
Gareth, yes, we this year, for the 4th year in a row, won the best mixed use or international mixed use development. For us, it's a real honor. This competition has been running for the last 28 years. There are a few categories, 4 main categories. There's in architecture and interior design, and then there's developments and real estate. And under the developments category, they have this mixed-use development, and we compete with various countries over the world. This year, in the last around, there were 13 countries from 6 different continents that were in the final, so to speak, and we managed to win it again. So I was really very surprised because the competition is really very strong. We compete against countries, especially in the Far East and in the Middle East. Those countries have a lot of money that they are investing in infrastructure and developments, and it's really the world's best architects and engineers and so on that are involved in it. So we're very proud.
Well done. I think it's really cool that you are able to be internationally recognized for the work that you guys are doing at Waterfall. But I know we're doing a series with you on smart cities, and this is really one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you this morning. Tell me about some of the stuff that is going on when it comes to urban planning, technology, the cities of the future, what they'll look like, what they'll feel like. I mean, it's hard for many of us to imagine this stuff, and you deal with it every day. What exciting things can you tell us about what the city of the future might look like?
Well, just before I go there, I just want to say that, people think that when you say smart city, it's just a pie in the sky type of idea, and it's only tech and so on. But smart city is also a sustainable environment. And I often say that in our country, you don't necessarily have to use only tech to become smart. You must just think smart, and that's not. It shouldn't be that difficult. So, but it's a combination of a number of things. It is obviously the technology, and then it's your energy resources, how you manage that. In our case, we have embarked on a number of initiatives, but obviously one of the first things that I can mention is the security environment. When we compare that with other countries in the world, if you look at the type of technology that we are employing in our estates and access to office parks and so on, that is already a very sophisticated environment in which we are operating in.
Right.
And then obviously the water use, we've especially at TAC and Baldwin have a few buildings that are already Green Star, 4-star green rating buildings, and they are going for 5-star green rating buildings as well. And
what
in those
that,
buildings,
if you're a green rated buildings, that mean you are energy efficient, environmentally not doing any damage, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes. So to give you an example, in these buildings, the water usage is measured literally by on a minute by, well, it's live. So we have statistics that can show us when the peak times for water usage is, and in the evenings you can see when everyone's supposed to be out of the building if there is still water running. And that, if there is, that usually is an indication that there's somewhere there's a tap open, or there's something that's leaking or so. So we have managed to introduce that at quite a number of the buildings already, and we are reducing the water usage quite significantly. And over and above that, it's also the use of our landscaping. We have, in some cases, saved about 40% of our water by using indigenous plants, in the landscaping environment over the last 2 years. So that's one aspect of it. Then, obviously, from an electricity point of view, it's also again to use technology to measure it and see how we can get as little electricity from Eskom, because we need, and we know that they need it somewhere else. So we obviously are very focused on solar energy. The Mall of Africa has already got a 4.7 MVA power plant on top of the roof of the Mall of Africa. And then various other buildings are also running off solar.
I think this stuff is so cool because we tend to think only of our own houses, but if you live in an environment where these things are the priority, it's amazing how everybody then is more aware of this stuff. They feel like they're all contributing to something which is much more advanced and evolved than if you just lived in the old suburbs. But it is interesting, like Waterfall's not that old, and you guys have been you've been putting this stuff in place from the very beginning. The vision must have been there from the very start, right? The idea of creating something that is world class, something that is extraordinarily advanced in terms of its thinking, because most places that are being built aren't thinking like you guys are. Most places are just doing things the old way.
Yes, I think we were fortunate that we started, relatively recently. But I must say we had one gentleman called Clive Wheel. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he was really the initiator of our initiative, the Smart City Initiative.
Right.
He always said to us right in the beginning, look, it starts with connectivity. You have to have a proper internet network. And when we started, the likes of Telkom and Vodacom actually didn't want to come here. They said, come see us when 80% of your development is completed, then we'll speak to you again. So we were forced to start with our own internet network or laying the fiber. So today we have a single trench open policy fiber network. And that I must say has helped us a lot.
Does that mean that anyone inside of Waterfall can connect to the fiber network?
Yeah, we allow any service provider to come on to our network, but we do not have various cabling networks. And I think there are about 8 or 9 here in Johannesburg operating. And the problem with that is that every time somebody wants to lay a cable, they dig up the pavement, and they usually damage some infrastructure. So in our case, we've resolved that quite early, and then also the connection to cell phone infrastructure.
Right.
We've got radio planners who planned our cell phone network quite early in the stage. So, as I say, it starts with connectivity, and thereafter all the other smart devices and so on that you want to connect to measure traffic. We also have a weather station now that measures literally the wind and even the dust. And the whole environment, as far as that is concerned, is now currently measured.
That's amazing. It's really, really advanced, and it's so sophisticated and so important. These things are the kinds of things that people used to think, oh, well, only very, very rich people who live on huge sprawling estates of their own could ever have the level of management and control that you guys seem to exercise over all of this.
Yeah.
Gareth,
that's one of the things that I'm thinking about, and to you, Villy, as well, is what sort of rates and taxes are we looking at here? I mean, how does a resident go about paying for all of this amazing technology?
Look, I was just saying, and I'm glad that you've mentioned, the income groups. We have literally entry-level housing at Waterfall as well. It's what we call the gap housing initially. And I must say, when we started with it, the houses were selling in the total package for close to 500,000 rands. Over the last number of years, it appreciated quite significantly. These days, it's around about 1 million rands and so on. But the cheapest house that you will find at Waterfall is around about 750,000 rands. And, then going up to the Equestrian Estate, where there's over 100 million rands worth of properties. But so that's the one part. As far as rates and taxes are concerned, the rates and taxes in the lower end of the market is around about 450 rands a month. And then it goes up to 20,000 rands a month, because that's what the city charges.
Sure, of course.
What we do is we have an additional levy. Well, it's included in the residential levies, where we pool money to, for example, do river cleaning, water, not purification, but water treatment. We clean the road verges. We do landscaping on the road verges. And by the way, it's not only landscaping for us when we plant indigenous grass and so on. It also helps us with security, because if you have a nice environment, it sticks out when a person is suddenly laying lying down on the ground or sitting somewhere where they are not supposed to be sitting. It's easy to spot. So yeah, there is a price to pay, but if you look at it, you must almost ask yourself, what's the price you are paying for not doing it? How much
Yeah,
water,
I mean, there is that, and then there's also living in an older suburb, or one of the oldest suburbs of Johannesburg, as I do, and many of us do, in sort of the parks areas, and how much money is spent on maintaining broken systems and infrastructure and roads and pipes and cutting down enormous trees. And there's a lot spent on maintenance when you're living in an older place versus a modern city.
Yeah, I think we are really very fortunate because we do have maintenance schedules and we try and stick to those schedules. We've learned, I mean, everyone in the country has learned what happens if you don't maintain the roads, if you don't maintain the electrical infrastructure. It ultimately just becomes so expensive that you basically have to install a brand new system. And that is much more expensive than just doing the maintenance. So we really have detailed schedules on that. Look, there's always room for improvement. I'm sure if you go out here, somebody will find a fault somewhere. But we're trying our best. And all of this is also,
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we've got a great podcast series launching with you guys. And I mean, this is another indication of just how forward-thinking Waterfall is, because you guys are doing the first season was really just for the residents, and we didn't even open it up to the public because we thought this is a podcast series that maybe most people won't be interested in. It turned out that lots of people were, and the second season was live to everybody, and you could go and listen to it and you still can on cliffcentral.com. And now this third season is really not just about Waterfall. It's about smart cities all over the world and the things that cities are doing to make their infrastructure and their developments and their shopping and their lifestyle aspects so much more advanced. Tell me what made you decide to do this, because I know that you run an extremely interesting city within a city there, but there've got to be parts of it that are really interesting to you and that make you excited.
Gareth, I always say to the people, it's almost criminal not to have a smart city approach, because if you have all of this technology and you can use it and you can have smart ways of dealing with waste and energy management, you should be doing it. You know, in Johannesburg, I'm told, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's at least 30% of the water that's leaking every single year. Now, if that is the case, then why not having proper things in place that can measure the use of water? So what we are planning at the moment is to ensure that by having these discussions, we ensure that we learn from other institutions and hopefully motivate other people from other cities in Johannesburg to do the same. And we work together. The more we work together, the easier it becomes. When the president says he's planning a smart city, everyone thinks that it's a pie in the sky, but it doesn't have to be a pie in the sky. It's already happening here in Africa. People think that because we're from Africa, we can't do these things, but we certainly can.
Well, you guys are leading the way, and I'm really pleased we got to speak to you this morning. And you will be pleased to know that our new season is already underway with Waterfall, and you can find out more by going to cliffcentral.com. Vili, it's really good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Bye-bye,
Great to have you on the show this morning. That's Vili Force. He is the CEO of the Waterfall Management Company. And really, if you haven't been through...
So damn interesting, really.
I have friends who live in Waterfall, and I went to visit them last year in August, I think it was. I was just blown away by this place. And I mean, you see it from the highway. So you drive past there and you see them. I've been to the Mall of Africa a couple of times, and there's some really nice restaurants there to go to as well. And you don't see the whole picture. But when you go into Vili's office, he's got this huge big map of the whole thing. It's like a satellite photograph of the entire development. and it is enormous. That guy has so much to manage every day. You think you've got a busy job. You think you
Yeah.
have a lot to worry about. My goodness, I have never seen so much stuff going on at the same time, and it's
Isn't it?
it's so
Isn't it?
efficient, so
Isn't
progressive.
it interesting how being a mayor of a city, or talking about accents, we should be saying mayor, a mayor of a city, carries. It kind of carries less. You think it carries less responsibilities than someone being a CEO of something, and him being a CEO of the city is just enormous. Also, I was wondering if we're going to come across a waterfall accent and what that'll be like. Like we have Fourways accents, you know?
Yes. Yeah, maybe there's going to be one. Tracy says, we live in an estate and it's not just a beautifully maintained neighborhood, but you really can't put a price on peace of mind. We forget to lock our house at night. Our kids can play outside. See, that's special.
Man.
That's
Sure.
really, really special. I wonder how many people have that. And this is why these places are so popular, Tracy. People want to live in them because they're safe. Anyway,
Yeah.
very, very good stuff. So good to check in with Villy, and you'll be able to listen to the podcast ASAP. All right.
Very good.
Lots of good feedback from people about our new look video streaming this morning. If you've been watching us live on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, because that's how we keep a measurement of whether it's working or not. So please let us know what you want. What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? What do you like the most? There we go. You see?
Welcome back to our channel.
So you can listen on all the different apps as well. Very good work. And give us feedback if you'd like to make any suggestions. We're always open to those ideas. Just looking at the list of things that we needed to get through today. We've got so much going on that we didn't even get to this.
Oh, my goodness.
Sia tells me, there's your cat again. Sia
Yeah,
tells
I'm
me
sorry.
that they sold Jeffrey Epstein's mansion in New York.
Yeah, it's the mansion where, do we say alleged? I think we should still say alleged. Okay. Where a lot of the alleged fiddling happened. And once again, I wonder.
Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a pun there. I'm still trying to process it. Fiddler on the roof, fiddling on the roof, something. Okay. I'm sorry. I had to. Once again, I wonder who would buy this house where there's something so seedy that has gone on, allegedly. Why would you buy it? But it sold for $51 million US. And
it must be a very nice place. I mean, that's why you'd buy it. You know, if something terrible's happened there before, but it's a great location and it's got all the amenities and all the views, and it's very pretty. And I think people.
Hey, lest we forget, he was a multi-millionaire. So, $51 million US.
I wonder how much class was involved in that. I'm sure he was quite crass and bawdy.
Well, didn't he have that picture of Bill Clinton?
763 million rands, by the way.
Didn't he have that picture of Bill Clinton above the fireplace in the blue dress? Yes, he did.
There's just something odd about that.
No.
And then the sale. So it's an undisclosed buyer who's bought it, but the money, all $51 million US, is going to the Epstein Victims Compensation Program. So some victims will be paid out from this. But, if you just squint at the story a little more, why do we not know who the buyer is? Is it like someone from the cult who's trying to make them seem better? Why wasn't it just a direct sale? Why does it now going towards the victims? Are they trying to do some PR situation here? Could it just come from the Clinton bank account?
Suspect. Okay, I see what you're going with here.
Don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
Oh, God. All right. Very good. Here's an interesting thing to think about.
That's
today.
all I needed.
Apparently, if you earn a salary of 5,000 Rand or more per month, that's not a lot of money, hey? 5,000 Rand a month in this country, then you are in the top 40% of rich South Africans. That shows you what a poor country we actually live in. If you earn 5,000 Rand a month, not net, gross, 5,000 Rand a month.
Just 5,000.
5,000, you're in the top 40% of South Africans. And 60% of the population is poorer than you are. At 5,000 Rand a month.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah, it is such a wake-up call.
That's not a lot of money. And most of us are struggling to pay the bills anyway. Let me tell you, if 60% of the population live on less than that, it's a really, really bad state of affairs. It makes everybody hopefully a little more grateful for what they do have today.
Yeah, this is according to the World Inequality Database, and they have a tool that lets you calculate how wealthy you are compared to others. And so according to the tool, if you earn a salary of 5,000 Rands per month and live in a household of more than one, then you are in the bottom 38% of South Africans. So they're two different stats. So 5,000 Rands or more per month and live in a household of one, so you live alone, then you're in the top 40% of rich South Africans. But if you earn 5,000 Rands a month and you live in a household of more than one, then you're in the bottom 30% of South Africans. And then if you earn a salary of 10,000 Rands per month and you live in a household of 5 people or above, then you're also part of the bottom 30%. In South Africa. This is awesome.
Yeah, guys. Whew. It's hectic,
Be happy with what you've got. You might wake up this morning and it's Monday, so you don't want to start work. You think, oh no, the weekend's over. I feel sorry for myself. Just be very grateful for the little bits you have, because considering those numbers, it's a lot harder for a great many more people in this country. So nice to talk to someone like Willie, who's running this world-class city within a city, but there are parts of South Africa that are so backward and so there's just no resources, there's no infrastructure whatsoever, there's no running water, no electricity. People are living in absolute squalor, like they did like 400 years ago. You know, there are parts of South Africa where you could still be in the 1700s, and then there are parts of South Africa that are as advanced as Waterfall is. It's just amazing. Anyway, that's it for this morning. That's all we got time for. We will see you tomorrow on cliffcentral.com. Have an awesome day and be good this Monday morning. Don't do too many things at once. Just, one thing at one thing at a time.
One bad thing at a time.
One bad thing at a time. And don't try to do too much today. We're still technically in level 1, so you can blame COVID for what you don't feel like doing.
Just pretend it's still Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very nice.
I don't know how that will be good for anyone involved, but okay.
No, just don't drive like work. All right, everybody. Have a happy day. Thank you very much. Cheers.